leadership and clarity about issues. And if you don't name them, you can't fix them.
There was another incident that's happened this year, and it ties into something that we discuss a lot on this show, particularly with regards to big tech. And it's a story that happened around Wikipedia. I actually think it might have been quite a recent story. Don't know if either of you want to pick up on this, but a Mediapedia article has been manipulated to make it the whole grooming scandal issue sort of another far-right conspiratorial kind of thing. I'd love to hear this story, but I'll say how important this is it's another way in which the general public can be manipulated into thinking such a thing is off limits or not real. And it's unbelievably effective. And Wikipedia the search is where people get their if you want to understand something, most normies will go to Wikipedia. I still go to Wikipedia to get my information. So what exactly is this story around Wikipedia?
So a moderator on Wikipedia who's got a lot of entries, he's been doing edits for a long, long time, changed the grooming gang article so that it describes it as a moral panic. That terminology is drawn very much from the academic literature. So again, talking about people being scared, there is very little academic study of grooming gangs. People don't want to generally go there. And a lot of the people who do go there are, let's just say that the line between them and far left activists is often hard to see. A lot of those like to refer to it as a moral panic. And it's a sort of useful way of, again, making it something that you can't touch. You just happen, it's disinformation, guys. It didn't really happen. You're just blowing it all out of proportion. And I checked actually before we came on here, that is still the Wikipedia title. So that change, even though we know it's loopy, even though we have all the evidence, doesn't matter. The moderator made it. You can't change it. And the difficulty is that because something like Wikipedia relies on sources, if you don't have a lot of academic sources, you can't change things on Wikipedia because they'll say, well, you're just using primary sources. I need to see some secondary and so on. There's no academic literature, or there's very little academic literature that isn't very dubious quite often. And therefore it ends up being the dubious version that becomes the accepted or the acceptable version.
And the main research that's often used by objectors to our sort of reporting is a government-funded study. A 2020 report produced by the Home Office, first under Sajid Javid and then released by Priti Patel. Internally, they didn't want to release it, right? But it came out, and the headline that was spun from it was that, white men dominate grooming gang child abuse statistics. It was a fabrication, essentially. It failed to take into account some of the own reporting used within the paper. It failed to recognize the primary sources we saw from Telford. The report at that point, was building itself. Rotherham was already there. There was clearly the case in Rochdale. I think, Guy, you're probably best placed to go into this, but more or less, they created a state-supported misrepresentation of this issue, which is drawn out every single time. In fact, last year, when Suella Braverman made that intervention with that grooming gangs task force and a few other policy claims, when she named the issue accurately, as we believe, that, as we've been speaking about so much, she was, of course, derided as a racist, all the rest of it. And the political editor of The Guardian, Pippa Crerar, she, let's go back to this Home Office report, actually. Here's what it actually says. That is essentially a form of state-funded propaganda that drives the truth away from the understanding on this issue. It's a complete sham. And it's a failure, again, of leadership within the Home Office and the Conservative government to have allowed that to be released, to not have done a better job at it, to not have produced a new study, to not get new data. There was a study we found for our film that was released a couple of years prior to us broadcasting the documentary, which found that Muslims in general, but Pakistanis in particular, absolutely dominate group localized child sexual exploitation statistics. Something like in Rotherham, for every man with an Asian name, South Asian name, particularly a Muslim name, from 1997 to 2016, 1 in 73 had been prosecuted for group localized child sexual exploitation. In Telford, it was like 1 in 126. In Rochdale, it was a similar figure. Nationally, it was, what's the national figure? It's 1 in 2,000 or thereabouts.
Yeah.
That's insane. We have those figures from an academic study, which nobody seemed to have seen before. Nobody wanted to make a story out of it before. Really should set off alarm bells about why hasn't there been a bigger study in that. I mean, one of the demands that we've often made when we've met with the legislators about this and spoken about our work is you need another Home Office report. You need to update the 2020 effort, which was a sham, and get some up-to-date data. It's why, as part of the request that we made in our film and that Bradman put forward, it's not just about arrests. We also asked for data training of officers. So many police forces during the scandal in the noughties and early 2010s didn't record information about ethnicity for offenders. There were some cases where police officers were actually involved in the handover of abuse victims from their abusers in order to make them escape justice. That's a whole other kind of crisis involved there, particularly in Rotherham. But it's clear they weren't doing their job just to record the data. Just record the data about who they are. They were shy about doing it. They thought it would reveal a pattern they didn't want. Well, there is a pattern. We need to know it. We need to have that data done forward. They've trained over 400 officers now, but it's in many ways it's too late. But there is still something to be done there. There is still information out there. Court records do show that this is the case.